So good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you, all audience members who have joined. And good afternoon on behalf of M Junction to everyone and all the three eminent speakers that we have for today. Today, it's the 14th edition of our webinar series, which we call Unlocking Value. And the topic is there in front of us, which is disruptions are a boon to a CPO, or are disruptions a boon to a CPO? So it can be either a statement made or a question to be answered today. Great. So, the thought is that if necessity was the mother of invention, is constraint the father of innovation? And I think this holds so true today, considering the recent disruptions that have impacted the procurement and the global supply chain. You name it, it's pandemic, wars, restrictive trade policies, economic downturns, and what not have stormed into the life of procurement managers and procurement function. But you know what the good story? Our procurement leaders stood tall and the show never stopped because it was never meant to be. The businesses were never halted, commerce never got tired. And it's because the procurement leaders looked at those disruptions. They looked at those disruptions through the lens of opportunity. They went beyond evaluating only risk and returns, but leveraged every experience they had, every procurement tool they had at their disposal to create assets, new sustainable strategies, and in turn create competitive edge for the organization. Okay, am I right, my speakers today?
Yes.
Kudos to all of you. Kudos to all of you. So yes, disruptions are boon to a CPO, or is it? So in order to discuss that, we have three eminent speakers today with us. Okay. Our first speaker today is Mr. Somnath Chatterjee. Sir, very welcome to you on behalf of M Junction, and it's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chatterjee has more than 3 decades of experience handling key positions in FMCG and food giants, Nestle, and currently with ITC Limited in the foods division, and he's heading the procurement and logistics for last many years. Mr. Chatterjee specializes in commodity procurement and planning and execution of cost reduction measures. He has vast experience in logistics, transportation, warehousing, inventory, and whatnot. On completion of his various procurement courses, he's currently a member with the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and he's also a member of Indian Merchants Chamber. Am I right, Mr. Chatterjee?
That's right.
Okay. He has been a regular speaker in various national and international level seminars related to commodities, and he is also a visiting faculty at both IIM Ahmedabad and Bangalore. He has done in post-graduation in humanities, and very interestingly, his specialization is in tea and coffee tasting, which he has done from J. Thomas and Company, Kolkata, and also Thomson Lloyd and Ewart in London. That's wonderful, interesting, Mr. Chatterjee. So what can we offer you today, tea or coffee?
Oh, I just finished my cup of sunbeam coffee. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We don't have too many people yet. We've got about 37 participants, but yeah, it never hurts.
Yeah, it'll come. We have got more than 200 registrations done, so we will they will be adding up.
Yeah. Right, Atanu. So thank you for that very kind and long introduction.
The pleasure's all ours. Pleasure's all ours.
Opening remarks, I'll only say 3 things. One is the old Chinese proverb, which basically translated in English goes on to say that there are decades when nothing happens. Okay. And then there are weeks and months when decades happen. Yeah? Okay. So for the last 18-20 months for my supply chain and procurement colleagues must have been interesting to say the least, right? A lot of action. Great. And I'm sure during the course of this program, we'll all discuss that.
Yes, we're looking forward. We're looking forward. We know the taste that you're going, we know the culinary things that you're going to bring onto the table. And, you know, our gastronomical experience will be great at the end of this 1 hour. Thank you, Mr.
Second thing which I wanted to say was, I don't know, maybe some people attribute this to Winston Churchill during the wartime, but he used to say apparently that never let a good crisis go to waste.
That's true. Crisis Is opportunity. That's what I said, that you people have looked through the lens of opportunity. And thanks to you all.
Coming from Winston Churchill, a tall leader, to another tall leader in India, Modi ji, we've all heard him saying, Apada mein avsar. So my whole point is that while, yes, it has been a massive disruption, you've never seen anything like this. I have not seen in my 30-year career. But then, can we leverage this? Can we learn from this? Can we improve from this? So I think this panel, I'm sure, will throw some good ideas at this discussion. So with
Surely.
that, back to you, Atanu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for setting the context and the ball rolling. Our next speaker is Mr. Abhijit Tripathi. He is currently the Chief Commercial Officer at Vedanta Alumina, based out of Lanjigar. Has been all through a metal guy. Am I right, Mr. Tripathi?
Yes, Ratan, you're right.
You epitomize procurement in the metal sector. So he has over 15 years of experience, buying project capex items and managing global supply chain. Okay, he's also a keen person. Apart from procurement, he looks after the SAP business processes at Vedanta, and is also a functional expert in terms of dealing with other procurement technologies at Vedanta. Okay. He is a BTech in computer science. He has done his master's in marketing and operations, and didn't stop there. He also got trained in management essentials at Harvard Business School. That's great, Mr. Tripathi. That's great. And he has won the CEO Kitty Award and been conferred with the Star of Business. That's great. And when was this? You have been conferred with this award? 2013, Mr. Tripathi?
Yeah, 2013, yes.
Oh, okay. Great guess from my end. Thank you. So welcome, Mr. Tripathi. Welcome to you. Okay. Our next speaker is Mr. Shyam Tiwari. He is currently heading procurement at Bebron Medical India Private Limited for the last 3 years and more, and based out of Mumbai. Welcome, Mr. Tiwari. He has more than 25 years of experience in managing procurement and global supply chain in India and China. Has worked with companies like GE, Novartis, Whirlpool. Interestingly, he regularly practices yoga and is a keen learner of cultures and socioeconomic landscape in foreign countries. Am I right, Mr. Tiwari?
Yes.
Okay. I hope currently you are not focusing on either Ukraine or Taiwan.
No, there are a lot of economic impacts, positive and negative. So just to give example,
Good.
the house costed in Poland has gone up for the rents because many people are coming and supply is short.
Okay. Knowing that,
there is a lot of thing happening.
Yeah, knowing that, I was a bit concerned because in the middle you are not taking my calls. So I train or not for this foreign understanding. Good to have you with us. Thank you. And without further ado, let us get the context going. Mr. Chatterjee has already done for us. So my first question will be a more of an ice-breaking. Okay, and I request all speakers to be very objective in answering that. Just set the context. So can we start off by naming, two most disruptive impacts that you have experienced in the recent past, and one foreseeable future phenomena that's going to create similar impacts in the future, whether positive or negative? So my question is about two disruptive impacts of the past and one future phenomena which is going to create similar impacts. And I move to Mr. Chatterjee first.
So Atanu, one is tempted to say COVID, right? But I think everyone's going to say that, so we'll just skip the COVID bit. I'm going to touch upon something very disruptive which has been impacting all of us even before COVID started. And that is really the shipping related disruptions, right? Now, the shipping related disruptions were already visible during middle of 2019, way before we had heard of COVID. And the reason for that was basically the China-US trade imbalance, the China-Australia trade imbalance. The ships were all in the wrong place, the containers were in the wrong place, and already a problem was brewing. COVID only exacerbated that. So this is a problem which is still yet to unravel itself. It is going to take maybe 2 to 3 years more for things to come under any semblance of order, which was there before 2019, right? Just a few illustrative points for the participants. Freight to Dubai from India, from say Nhava Sheva to Dubai, which used to be anywhere between $28 to $35, are today $800. And at the peak of the disruption, we had seen this $1,500 as well. So 3,500 going to 1,500. I mean, that is, and were there enough ships and containers available? No. And even today, there is a bit of a problem. So that is something which we as professionals have to look out for. This is not going to solve itself in the next 1 or 2 quarters. This is going to take time. Future, what do we look at? So we got to, geopolitics is always with us, right? We are all aware about the Ukraine war and now the tensions in Taiwan. But we also need to brace ourselves for other upsets. For instance, I was just reading about the latest virus, which has hit China, where 35 people have been diagnosed with it. It's a deadlier virus than COVID. It's called Langya. People can Google it and see it is. It impacts the kidney and the liver. We don't know how serious it is or how how infectious it is and whether it's going to cross borders. Have we learned something from COVID across the world? Maybe we have. So as procurement professionals, future is uncertain. The only thing that we know is that stock market और आदमी दोनों को एक दिन ऊपर ही जाना है. That's the only thing which is for sure certain. Otherwise, baki sab kuch uncertain hai. So you have to have a plan B and a plan C all the time.
Great, great. So next, for these 3 pointers, if I can move to Mr. Tiwari.
So thanks, Atanu.
Thank you.
My experience of last 2 years of disruption is really overcoming like whatever I learned in 25 years. So it's a lot of, but just to summarize, if you ask me two very distinctive trends which I'm seeing and learn. So in a very one-liner, I would say inventory is a real asset. People realize that we always discarded from various financial side and just in time and for all this thing that, okay, keep the lean and mean. But I think we all learned the hard lessons. Inventory is the real asset. So that is the one. I may say it will change a lot of things associated. It will change the warehousing landscape. It will also change the freight part of it. So it will change a lot of things. Already it is start changing. So that is the one which I would say the clear distinctive this thing. The second one is also the context in which we looked upon the supplier relationships. So although I'm sure I have many viewers from the same fraternity and we call it supplier partners, but supplier partner are never look like in a sales partner. So let's say like we deal with the dealers, like we deal with the sub dealers, we promote all those things. I think that has permanently changed a bit in the lenses how we look forward for supplier partners. I think companies across the sectors has realized the importance how much this supplier business relationship is critical going forward. So they were also looked upon the supplier is there. We can give the schedule, we can fix the price, and we can keep supplying, and we can pay them on time, or sometimes not so much in the time. But those days are completely gone. So these are the two, let's say, a distinctive, disruptive thing which I have seen. Looking into future because medicals, pharma supply chains are quite global, and I have also had experience of managing supply chain in China. I think localizations is a very important aspects of all the industry which will go, and that resonate with our honorable Prime Minister Atmanirbhar Bharat. It's really needed. It may take 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but we need it. So I think journey could be little longer for industry, for various sectors, but we will be needing that and we have to prepare for it. It's not going to happen overnight, but this is the trend which will be all across, not only India, but all across countries. The localization will be the very key significant change. It will change the kind of trade we do, the kind of containers we need to ship out everything. It will change a lot of things. So these are the some of my, let's say, learning and finding.
Great, great, great. So Mr. Tripathi, you heard it from your flanks. You heard the culinary thoughts from ITC and the medical concerns from Bibron. So what is your take on those 2+1 pointer?
No, I think what the other panel members have said, and I think it's very much I would say bullseye. But from my side, maybe there are two things which we need to think, and also we need to highlight is that basically if you think the cyber risk, which was always there and which will always remain. So whether there is a disruption or there is no disruptions, that will definitely happen. And I think recently in the World Economic Forum there was a short video from Satya Nadella where he was explaining that how Microsoft could mitigate the risk of moving all the confidential data from Ukraine to another cloud services, so that it is not coming under the threat. And so that is one of the thing which definitely will be the future ahead, because the trend now is that everybody is trying to move to the cloud. Okay, so that is one of the important thing which we need to consider. And the second thing is that I would say maybe company, we always talk about the supplier relationship management, but I think now we need to go two step ahead, and we need to also look at the sub suppliers of that particular supplier, and we need to also focus on them, because during the disruptions, when the whether due to the geopolitical conditions or due to the inflation, the sub suppliers get affected first, and then that eventually affects the main suppliers, and then if the main suppliers are getting affected, then it will hamper their customers. So that ecosystem, I think definitely we need to look at for the future.
Great. We heard from all three, but Mr. Chatterjee, I must say there are three things going up. Admi, stock market, and as Mr. Tripathi said, data. Data is going to the cloud. So that is also going up. We just only hope that it doesn't come down with rains. It doesn't get washed off. Okay. So there are three things. And the takeaway is, yeah, lovely points. So COVID has been all there, but it's been a cliche over the last 2 years talking about it. So good that our speakers have brought perspectives on supply relationship, the shipping ecosystem around, and obviously the cyber risk that Mr. Tripathi had thought about. So three things going up. Okay, humans, stock market, and data. Great. So with that, I think the ice had been broken. The ice had been very well broken. And my next question to Mr. Chatterjee is, Mr. Chatterjee, over the last few years and before, with your 3 decades of experience, you have seen a lot of disruptions. I'm sure you have seen a lot of disruptions. But in the last 2 to 3 years, what has been the major disruptive areas in ITC's procurement? And as a procurement leader, what has been your reaction to that in terms of the critical steps that ITC procurement had taken to circumvent those disruptions? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, Atanu. So about 8 years back, we had taken a conscious call to kind of become Atmanirbhar, in the sense we realized that within our supply chain, there are a lot of imported ingredients which are coming from across the globe. At that point of time, no surprises for guessing, one of the largest countries from which we were importing was China, right? A lot of chemicals, etc. And then we kind of started wondering, how can we wean away from importing and start making in India and using? Can we call our supply chain completely indigenized? And that was the challenge that we put in front of us. Why did we do it? Did we 8 years back have a crystal ball which showed us that COVID will happen? No, we didn't have anything of that nature. We did it for basic business sense. We did it because we knew going forward the rupee will continue to be under pressure. And why is that? Because our balance of payment was quite clear, and there is always a deficit there. So it was a given that the rupee will slowly depreciate over the years. There will be bouts of volatility, but the general trend, what it was 8 years back and what it is today, right? That is clear. The second thing is we pride ourselves for not being a multinational. We are an Indian entity, ITC, and we are here for Indians. And when our customers are Indians, why can't our entire supply base, all our vendors be also Indians? So what did it take to break that ice? And we then started speaking to vendors who were probably not in a particular line of business. They were in an adjacent business, but we encouraged them. We told them that why don't you start looking at making this particular ingredient in India, right? This is made in Germany or in China. Why can't we look at making it here? What will it take? And uh, we even started giving them inputs. For instance, we formed like a we have a informal network of FMCG buyers who work for foods, right? And so maybe a little bit of demand from, so the Britannia buyer also said, okay, we will also take it if you make it in India. The other guys said, okay, we will do it. Kellogg's guy said we will do it, etc., etc. So what I'm trying to say is that we were able to collect demand. We were able to encourage people, right? We were able to show them a path to profitability should they invest in this new kind of manufacture. And we've had brilliant results. Now, I'll just give you one small, you keep calling it gastronomical. So let me give you two quick use cases, yeah? Because stories are always more interesting than giving yarn. So we had launched, this is about 4 or 5 years back, we had launched a particular cookie in our digestive range of cookies, right? Called, so the, for, so what happened was in that cookie, kishmish was being used, raisins, right? It was a nut and raisin kind of a cookie. We thought that, hey, what can be simpler than buying kishmish in India? We produce so much grape and we have so much kishmish, right? What will be the problem? So, but there was a big problem. What we realized is when we asked for good quality raisins, and some of our dry fruit vendors supplied it also, the good quality meant that the size of the raisin is large. Okay? So we call it count. So in a kilo, how many pieces will be there? So what we wanted was 500 count, but what was a good quality available in India was about 300 count. So what was happening when the raisin size was big and you put it inside the cookie would break from if the raisin did not get embedded inside the cookie, right? So that was the problem. And then when we went around looking for small size raisins, what we got was all the insect bitten, dried, shriveled, bad quality stuff, right? And that we can't use. So that became a huge problem. Then we went into the raisin markets of Maharashtra, Sangli, which is the raisin capital, Kishmish capital of India. And then we spoke to a lot of people. We were shocked that there is nothing, there is no cleaning, sorting, there was no kind of an infrastructure, although we were producing a heckload of that. So then I reached out to an ex-colleague of mine who was in Kellogg's and asked him, realized that even they are importing from Iran. Yeah. So, I mean, we produce so much kishmish in India, but all the users were actually importing them. And then I looked into the import export data and we found that yes, kishmish is actually being imported and the duty is quite high. Right? Why not? Because we produce it in India. But then if you want that quality, you'll have to pay high price for it. So we encouraged the vendor, a particular vendor who was into some other commodity, but we encouraged him to set up a small plant. We encouraged him to do the laser sorter and the cleaning, washing, and everything. And the quality what we got and the size that we got was great. But then the vendor had a problem. Atanu. The problem was again going back to the big size of the kishmish. So after sorting, the small ones he gave it to me. But what does he do with the big one?
Okay.
So we solved that. And guess who buys a lot of kishmish and he loves the big ones? Tirupati Laddu. So anyone who's gone to Tirupati, you will have that laddu, that prasad, and you will see बहुत बड़ा बड़ा किशमिश होता है उसके अंदर, right? So we got into with we got that vendor in touch with the Devasthanam people, their procurement team, because they also have a large procurement for a lot of stuff, and so now we have a perfect synergy. All the chota walas I take, all the bada walas they take, and the vendor is making, and we are not, nobody is importing from Iran, right? So these are the kind of success stories that you can make out of. Coming
Great.
back to this today, when COVID hit us in early 2000, we did a quick rain check, and except for 2 or 3 items which are imported, most of my 14,000 items that my team and I we buy were Indian. And today, after about 18-20 months of COVID, I'm so happy to say to this forum, and I can see that there are already 75-80 people on board. I'm so happy to say that every time you buy an ITC food product, please be rest assured that it's completely Swadeshi. In this, Independence Ka Mahotsav, right? Amrit Utsav, please buy Indian, buy ITC, because everything in that is made in India. So with that, back to you, Atanu.
Great, great, Mr. Chatterjee. I think the magic word, if I have to encapsulate this entire last 6 minutes of your storyline, I think the magic word is collaboration. You collaborated with suppliers, you collaborated with your peers to show a demand market that entices the suppliers to get into these new things. Okay, there is always an inertia of rest, once for a new thing, to embrace a new thing. But I think when you show light at the end of the tunnel, which you people collaboratively could show, all the companies, and also with Tirupati ji, okay, I think the suppliers were happy. They thought that they're doing business with profit and with punya.
Yes, absolutely.
Both happened. So there were two P's, profit and punya. Great, great. So Mr. Chatterjee, wonderful to hear these stories, and that's great. I'd like to move on to Mr. Tiwari for my next question. Mr. Tiwari, obviously with 25 years of experience, stories are galore at your end. But my question is, what, and very objectively, so I'm saying, what are the 2, 3 sustainable changes that you feel that procurement leaders today are embracing or should be embracing, okay, to manage this continual disruptions of similar nature? As Mr. Chatterjee said, and I think you all people have agreed, that disruptions have not ended and not going to end. So what are the 2, 3 sustainable changes that procurement leaders are taking up, which you are happy about and you yourself have also taken up at BBRON or anywhere else? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, so thanks for asking this, Dhanu. I think these for procurement leaders, last 2 years had been really a great learning time, so that the people are learning, uh, the agile leaders are also learning what are the trends, how the organization are prepared for future. That is the very important aspects of any procurement leader or the CPO. I think one of the trend for which I personally will share and request all the audiences as well, as they hear from various organizations, that the digital transformation of procurement function will be more faster. It is faster. It is required now. When we say digital transformation, it depends on organization to organization, which phase of a digital journey they are, how supplier are connected, how we communicating to supplier, how we are communicating to supplier, the forecasting, and all that ecosystem have to be more digitalized, and within the procurements also, because if you are operating a global supply chain, the digital transformation, so what you expect to do in next 10 years, uh, as a leader, you will be compelled to do it next 3 years. For that matter, you will train your people, you will equip them with the right tools. So that's a very, very clear indicative that yes, uh, procurement have been transforming in digital, but the change will be much faster, much sustainable, and people will definitely embrace this. Procurement leader will embrace it much faster. Already, I think that's the first one. The second one is the commodity volatility had shown a lot of things opened up. So let's say, uh, personally, I just give you an example. At B Brown, we buy a lot of commodity which are linked to crude prices. Like we make syringes which is made out of PP, polypropylene. There are also other commodities like steel. You have a syringe which has a needle which is made of the steel. So, as a medical devices company, we never thought about that we need to be so deep into commodities as my friend Somnath need to be. So, I think companies are embracing, especially sector agnostics and those, to have a more depth of understanding of knowledge of these commodities. So if you ask me, we don't buy steel, we don't buy that much PP, but indirectly we buy. And in this disruption, especially this year or also the last year, we have been completely, let's say, taken aback. So that brings back again in the organizational perspective, that to build that capability, uh, how we understand this market well, what is the right timing to buy, what is the right hedging skills which we need to develop into procurement. These are some of the which has been brushed aside. Let's say there are global hedging firms which are doing it, but never in a procurement function these hedging need to be done. I'll give you one small example. Uh, we got little bit working with the intuition that we bought more PP material in January, February, almost for 4 month requirement. And then when this crisis of Ukraine hit us in March, April, the price went up by 25-30% and we bought nothing. Why? Because we bought more. So we were able to sustain it. But what it taught us also that this behavior we can even embrace in our regular buying. So we also looking from that angle that uh, this kind of capability need to be embraced in the team. And because as my other panelists shared that this is not the end of the disruptions. It looks like because supply chains are changing, consumptions are changing, localization happening, so the manufacturing bases are changes, so disruption going to be there. So I think this skills is also very much needed within the procurement function, because it is virtually coming to the point where the CFO is turning to you and asking whether we make a profit or not profit. It depends on how the commodity going to behave. So much volatility is there. So this capability definitely need to be a quite a game changer for the organization, whether they buy directly commodities or they don't buy directly the commodities. I think these are the two very
Great.
important changes I would say coming
Great.
across for me as a leader, which I have learned.
Great, Mr. Tiwari. Before I move on, Mr. Chatterjee, we have now bettered the Commonwealth Games medal tally, and now number of participants is more than 100. Okay, so okay, great. So as we start speaking, people have heard in the market that we have eminent speakers, and they have joined in so fast. So, Mr. Tiwari, I think one is digital transformation that has been the talk of the town, and you also emphasized on it. The other very interesting thing that you brought on is about category knowledge. It's about market knowledge. Okay. It's no point hedging. We all know hedging can be a good tool, but without knowledge, hedging can also backfire. Okay. So knowledge of category, knowledge of the market, knowledge of your ecosystem, and leveraged by digital transformation is I think are the two best medicines that you can offer, isn't it, Mr. Tiwari?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Tiwari. Mr. Tripathi, I think Mr. Tiwari, with one of his theme, digital transformation, has set the context for you. So my question is, are these recent disruptions had further triggered the need of technology in procurement and have accelerated the pace of adoption in organizations? If yes, then why do you think so it has happened? And what are the main priority areas for which organizations are, resorting to procurement technologies? Over to you.
No, thanks, Atanu. I think just I would like to just answer it in a bit of different way. Is that definitely disruptions, whether it was there and whether we still have the disruptions, and also we may or we may not have the disruptions, right? Because that's like a magical stick and trying to predict. Okay, but if you'd like to see the trend, and I would just like to take everybody to Y2K problem. And in 2000, if we remember, we were having the mobile phone technology had just come in, and we had the incoming calls also being charged, and then outgoing calls also was charged. And then after that, we then shifted the paradigm to no incoming call charges, and then outgoing calls also got reduced. So people adopted the mobile phone technology, moving out of the landline. Okay, so I think that happened without any disruptions, because people or the consumers wanted to see and experience a different service level from different devices. So that was one thing. And the second example would be your WhatsApp messaging, because nobody had thought is that just a messaging app will be sold at $19 billion. Okay, I think that was which was acquired by Facebook. So at that time, people were we didn't know that where to contact, and whether what kind of messages, whether we need to send letters or we need to send fax. So then we moved to WhatsApp. But if you try to relate that, in terms of the procurement, how we have evolved is that earlier we were just talking on the phone and then, trying to receive the hard documents and then trying to evaluate. And if you go even to the banking system also, we were maintaining a big ledger account, debit, credit, and we were using the hard copy of the passbook to maintain somebody's, debit and credit balance. So even the banking industry also have evolved over a period of time, and now just touch of a button you can see everything about your account in the bank just on the smartphone. Okay, and then again, specific to procurement as a whole, irrespective of any industries, then your companies like SAP, they came into the picture, and we had supplier relationship management, which was the complete integration between procure to pay. And then again, SAP also evolved in terms of giving again the different experience to the customer, and they acquired Ariba, which had the I would say auction platform and also many other features, which was also giving the visibility to the suppliers and the sub suppliers when they are supplying, where is their order, whether the payment is already in process, when they are getting the payment. Okay, so these are the evolutions which has happened, and specifically for the disruptions which has happened last over the period of 2 years with the lockdowns and all that. Nobody had even realized that the Zoom will be a $9 billion company. Okay, so definitely, and now whenever somebody is giving you a call, and if you're not able to travel, or there is an emergency and you need to attend a call, you just telling your friend, okay, let's have a video chat and just quickly finish it. So people have definitely had different demand with or without disruptions, and definitely they are looking for more advanced technology which is making their life easy. And also I still remember one of the prominent articles which is there from Harvard Business School, one of the professor, which is Prithviraj Chauhan, and he is basically now thinking of, we started with the concept of work from home, WFH, but now he is moving to WFA, work from anywhere. Okay, so it is this kind of hybrid, I would say, employment and employee structure is also going to, or it had happened, or it was already under the research, that how we can give better facilities to consumers or to employee to adopt the technology and move forward. So I think maybe I've answered your question in a little bit different way, both disruption and
Yeah, surely, Mr. Tripathi, thanks for your perspectives. If very objectively, I just want to hit you on one point, is that uh, you know what do you think, like how is the speed of adoption of technology in procurement in the Indian context now? Are you very happy? What is the scenario that you think is going to evolve in the next 2 to 3 years?
No, definitely. I think the adoption is really good, because in terms of the the compliance and the governance and the visibility of entire supply chain, whether you call it as a procurement or logistics functions or services, definitely all the corporates are looking for transparency. Okay, and I think digital is the only way where you can see the transparency. And also, if you see, there is a big push from the Indian government, which they had recently, I think 2.5 years or 3 years back, they had launched their e-procurement system, and I think rather than just submitting the hard copies of the tenders and all that, now they are encouraging all their government procurement to the e-portal. So definitely there is a push from from the government as well as from a procurement side for the corporate also, and they are definitely, in terms of the compliance, they are adopting the new technologies to at least give the confidence to their shareholders and the stakeholders.
Thank you, Mr. Tripathi. Thanks a lot. Uh, Mr. Tiwari, let's start the second round with you. Okay. Uh, See, strategy, tools, various other things are there, for procurement managers to leverage, and they have been doing it over the years. Apart from strategy, tools, and anything else, do you think procurement as a function is heading towards a complete overhaul in its approach and structure in order to manage these continual disruptions? And if yes, then what is the overall that you'd like to see in the procurement ecosystem in the next 2 to 3 years?
So, as you rightly mentioned, Atanu, I think strategy, category, focus, those tools are already there with the procurement disposal for quite some time. Even, let's say, I would say IG tools also was there at disposal of procurement, maybe partially adopted or fully adopted. I think one of the basic differences coming is right from the top, because in all this disruption, the boards of various companies has realized that procurement is a very critical function. It almost, depending on the business, control your costs from 30% to as high as 80%, wherever in whichever business you sits across. It's a very massive cost which is there. If you take a, let's say, the R&D company, they may spending 40% on the people side, but they still have 40% also on the material side. So it's a very, and with these interruptions, so there is a tone from the top that really look at it, that what is happening, are we prepared, are we not prepared, what is best in class, and how we really get there if we are not there. So companies of all, let's say, sizes, procurement values are looking to there. And most important, as I mentioned, is also the supplier relationship which we had. So supplier relationship have to be totally different looked upon. Both, you have supplier which can give you 80% of the production to you. We have suppliers which gives just 2% of the production to you, but the criticality could be very different, and that have to be viewed in a very different framework. So a part of this, this need to be somewhere also come and well embedded into the procurement strategy going forward. So let's say if I take a manufacturing environment, your production doesn't stop with the thing which you regularly buy. I'll give you an example. We have one connector which goes into one of the product line IV set. Let's say whenever you go and you take IV fluid, there is a pipe which is get fitted to you and also to the bottle, and there is a small connector. And this small connector we only buy 2 times in a year, so the requirement is really small. But in the last 2 years, when we come across with such a massive, let's say, demand spike, because people have to either for medical emergencies or for the demand pick out, we were unable, and we were confronted with this unavailability of, even globally, they were not able to ramp up the. So it brought that about that, okay, we always take care of the large high runners, but what and how we are placed for the low runners, and also the things which we are not giving that much value, but very important from the value chain perspective. So those have to be relooked, and people are relooking into that aspects. So these are some of my, let's say, the trend which I've been seeing emerging from this whole disruptions.
Okay, great, Mr. Tiwari. Thanks for those aspects also. Mr. Chatterjee, you already spoke about your stories, you spoke about supplier relationship, you spoke about, the plan Bs and plan Cs. Let me, give a question with a bit of a tweak, which my objective is that will be a takeaway for the audience today. Supposedly today, ITC is buying a very critical item from Taiwan. Okay. And with this rising tension, okay, what would be, as a procurement leader, would be your approach, the 3 main priorities that you take immediately to, circumvent this and keep your business continuity intact? So I want to hear this, perspective from you, so that, the young procurement leaders can take it as a learning from a leader like you.
Great. So now we've got about 102 people, and I would like to request everyone to go to hargartiranga.com and pin a flag, right? So please, let's do this for our country. Ideally, I would not like to import anything from Taiwan, but supposing I were to be in the automobile space and I were to be dependent on semiconductors and chips which will come from there, and that it's not like developing a vendor for raisins, setting up a semiconductor supply chain is billions in dollars and years of time. So I will be therefore constrained to go to a supplier in Taiwan, right? Uh, in our lexicon, what we say is that we were talking about hedging some time back, and to add on to what Tiwari ji was saying, we believe that not to hedge is speculation. Hedging is not only to prevent or mitigate price risk volatility. Hedging is also a great method to mitigate availability risk method. Okay, now when you have long-term ultra, when you know that you're married to that supplier in Taiwan, when you know that your product cannot do without that supply, then I think you need to turn that supplier into a partner. You need to have a frank conversation with him. You need to get into a long-term contract, maybe a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract. You need to have certain clauses which accommodate for his raw material and other input cost volatility. But prima facie, on an overarching basis, both of you know that this is what you will import and that is what he will export, right? So those things are already pre-planned and preordained. And for certain critical input material, you need to look at turning your vendors into partners. You need to do that. While you can use technology like we use, so we have horses for courses. Atanu. Again, let me take you into the culinary journey, as you keep saying. So, I have certain massy commodities and I have certain classy commodities. So, what are the massy commodities? The massy commodities are sugar, maida, edible oil, etc. Okay, where you need to hedge, of course, because they're very volatile. But there are certain classy commodities. For instance, that liquid chocolate which we put inside our dark fantasy chocofills. Now that comes from a particular vendor who has signed an NDA with us, right? Non-disclosure agreement. That is a recipe which we have jointly created, and that is what is the secret to our success. And that with that party is not, and I can't name him, but that party is really not a vendor to me. He's a partner. When dark fantasy does well, he does well. It's as simple as that. And we have this kind of we are tied at the umbilical cord with these guys. So with these kind of people, we have a very open book kind of a pricing, first principle costing kind of a method. For the massy commodities, we use technology. Of course, one can spend 350 crores and invest in SAP with Ariba. But we can also do, there are certain homegrown platforms that we use today. These are all startups where I can do unlimited reverse auctions every month for 70,000 bucks, right? So, you've got everything. We've developed an app in-house with IDC Infotech where we call it the Varadi. Varadi means bridge in Sanskrit. So, I have all kinds of vendors, Atanu. I have got vendors who are very evolved, like a international flavor house or a Cargill or a Wilmar. Okay, I've also got Nathu Malji from Karol Bagh, Delhi, who is the walnut king of India. Okay, now his quality of walnut are superb, and we have to go to him. He makes the price. He's the big guy in walnut, but that guy throughout his life he's only worked on the telephone, right? And if I ask him even for a quotation on email, he tells me that यार मेरा नाती स्कूल गया है, वो आएगा, वो कंप्यूटर में बहुत अच्छा है, वो आके आपको ईमेल भेजेगा शाम को, ठीक है ना? तो his नाती, so he is not going to do it, right? It's my interest that I need to buy those great quality walnuts from Nathumal ji, right? So I have to make life simpler for him. If I tell him कि तुम आप SAP अरीबा में लॉग इन करके RFQ का वो करिए, तो हील से आप एक काम कीजिए ना, आप कहीं और से ले लीजिए, मेरे से ना हो पाएगा, ठीक है? So I have been able to make it. So this app makes it so simple. He has to just type in the price. That's it. Now RFQ goes to him, and everything else is done by the digital backend. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, we need to do this. We need to, not only have a very great digital backbone supporting us, but we also have to, I'll just sign off with one again use case. I like telling these stories. So, and it's always interesting to stimulate thought. A few years back, everyone would remember there was this Malaysian aircraft which disappeared. I believe it's still not been found, right? So what happened then? And why? What is that? Why is that aircraft of interest to me as a buyer? What happened was we buy a lot of palm oil from Malaysia and Indonesia, right? And the palm oil trading index is called the Bursa Malaysia. It's called BMD. So that's in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. And when this aircraft disappeared, there was a lot of consternation. There was a lot of worry. And for 3 or 4 days, the Malaysian ringgit versus the dollar had collapsed 22%. Right now, why am I telling you all this? I was not sitting there analyzing or trying to figure out what's going to happen to the Malaysian ringgit versus dollar versus rupee. I just saw a very good opportunity to buy. So we bought the dip and we bought it very hard. Right. And as things normally happen, these things, again, in 5-6 days, things got normal. People digested the news of the crash, the ringgit recovered, and life life goes on. So what I would like to share finally with my young friends, and I presume I'm the older man over here in this fraternity of maybe 100, 405 people, that your buying should be a very simple PPT chart, right? So visualize a smile, a smiling face, a smiley, right? So there is a curve like this, and there is a curve like this. There are two curves. So when this curve is there, this is how your buying should be when this is the market. So what I'm again trying to tell you is, it's no good trying to beat the market by small incremental doses every week or every fortnight or every month. Your research, your backend should be good enough that you are able to take advantage of the dip. So buy the dip, because always remember, as users, as buyers, you guys are always short, right? Every day your factories are consuming, right? So technically you're always short on a commodity. So look at buying. Don't be fearful. If there is a dip, can it go down more? Yes, it can. ठीक है? And again, हमारे में एक कहावत है, only fools and liars catch the tops and bottoms of the market. So if somebody over a drink brags to you that यार मैंने तो सबसे लो में ITC का शेयर खरीदा था और सबसे हाई में बेच दिया, you can be rest assured वो झूठ बोल रहा है. Yeah, he can be a fool. He did it inadvertently. It happened to him by accident. Planning ka time mein, when you have to do it very consciously, very disciplined. You have to keep hedging and buying at every level. Right? With that, back to you, Atanu.
Great. So, so I just take, though you're from ITC, I'll lend a line from some other sector. It's like, I think the storyline or the message was make it large. Okay. Great. So now I think we put it open for the questions from the house. We take it from the audience. Our audience members have already put forward a few questions. So I think this question goes well for Mr. Tripathi, if I may request you. See, technologies have been embraced. Okay, people are putting PR to PO, very effectively, efficiently. So, what is the demand of the next stage procurement leader from a technology beyond PR to PO, beyond certain dashboards, beyond certain governance compliances? What is the next level demand that a procurement leader has from a procurement technology, and how CPOs are are thinking to embrace them, and the organizations are gearing up for those advanced technologies? If you may throw some light on that, Mr. Tripathi.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think as you rightly said, this PR to PO conversion and all that, it has been, it has evolved over a period of years. And now I would say many organizations, also including us, also we consider that as a tail end work. Okay. So what is beyond that? So in terms of from a procurement, as Mr. Tiwari also was trying to highlight, is that that is one of the most prominent function in any corporate, and also Mr. Chatterjee also was highlighting in terms of the collaboration. Okay, because every step you take in the procurement, it has the effect to the corporate, and also it has effect to your suppliers and the sub suppliers. Okay. And currently, as per the research from the Gartner, which clearly says that currently almost close to 42% of the chief procurement officers or the CPOs or whatever head of procurement are under the pressure for the margin margins and the profitability. Okay, but over and above, the 67% of CPOs are also being asked or aligned, or the corporates are now moving towards the ESG. Okay, which is the framework, environment and your social and the governance. Okay, and then again, almost 60% of the people or the commercial functions are being asked to basically act fast. Okay, and as I was mentioning in my earlier ice breaking session about the data. Okay, because now we have to, if we have to go beyond PR to PO and try to see the ESG framework and also see the profitability margin and also engaging with the supplier and maintaining the relationship on long term and the collaboration, I think, which was also one of your highlight against that example of the liquid chocolate which Mr. Chatterjee was mentioning. So definitely we have to, or we need to cater the data, and we need to handle the data in a very efficient way, because we cannot just have the data analyzed and it is giving you some outcome which you may or you may not digest. So definitely data has to be handled in a very diligent way. And we also talk about the artificial intelligence and the machine learning, but then again, these buzzwords are basically definitely, I would say, double-edged sword. And in terms of what is the right technology or which industry you are in, and what is your procurement spend, and what is your procurement, I would say, different countries from you are sourcing, and what are the different inputs which you have to consider. So the main conclusion which I can say is that data analytics and analyzing the data, and then what actions which you are taking to achieve the profitability and the collaboration and the ESG, and I think will be the most important factor coming years.
Great, Mr. Tripathi. I was hoping to hear this analytics story from you, and good that you pointed out. I think that remains next stage lever, and I think the main transformation will come is that how good we are in our judgment in terms of the data that the system throws on our face. I think that's what is going to create a competitive differentiation.
Yeah, and also, I like some of the research findings which I would like to highlight is that currently, as we have moved out from our day-to-day transactions, and the technology is already helping us to achieve what we want to achieve. But then again, there is a demand for process improvement, because almost 39% of respondents who have responded, and it is a mixture of manufacturing industry and also I would say banking, health and all that. So they are looking for the process improvement. So how the process improvement can happen? Definitely with the technology. And also another example would be Atheno, which is definitely going to be most interesting I would say technology in the near future. And we have seen a couple of videos and demonstration from Microsoft where the hologram or the HoloLens technology, because, and I think as Mr. Tiwari and Mr. Chatterjee and also including myself, we are all into definitely manufacturing industry. We are producing something for the consumers, right? And
Thank you.
like definitely we face machine breakdowns, or there are certain parameters which we want to achieve, which is provided by the manufacturer, and we are not able to achieve. And I have personally faced in the I would say in the recent past, like where we wanted to bring some technology expert to fix a particular machine, but then he was into a particular conference and he was busy and all that, and he had some prior commitment, so he could not come. So what we had to do is that we had to take him into the call, and then he was trying to explain that, okay, you do this, you do that, and finally with our expertise and also with his input, we could fix it. But imagine if that particular person with a HoloLens help is standing in front of you and trying to explain. So it could have been more easy, and you can just reduce the travel time of that particular person, and you are also able to increase the availability of your machine. So I think that is
Yes.
also one of the I would say important concept which is already there in the market, and definitely it will improve over a period of time.
Okay, great. So we are nearing the end. I have two questions more, one for Mr. Tiwari and one for Mr. Chatterjee from the audience. And these are two interesting questions which I have to ask. Mr. Chatterjee, to you first. I'll go with that question to Mr. Tiwari at the very end because that would sum up the theme today. Mr. Chatterjee, we have a question from the audience. Is that they have liked your Made in India concept and the way you have embraced it. So the procurement process of ITC Food Division is purely an annual rate contract based, or you go for supplier evaluation and price discovery very often? How do you and I'm sure you might be doing both, but what is your approach in terms of balancing between both of them? If you could answer very quickly.
Yeah, so there's a bull and there is a bear, and then there is a tamer who tames them both. So there can't be one answer for this, no, Atanu. It is
Yeah.
horses for courses. If the market is bearish, we will be buying hand to mouth and we will be doing RFQs every week, right? And if the market, we are looking at a bullish market, then I will do a 3-month rate contract, 6-month rate contract. So depends, but typically on certain specialty ingredients, like that example I gave you of that chocolate cream, or that other example I gave you of walnuts and raisins.
The
These
Masi
are
and
seasonal.
Classy.
Yeah, so the classy ones we will try to get into long-term rate contracts, and the mass mass commodities like skim milk powder, wheat, maida, oil, etc., sugar. These all we will take a view depending on how the market is. If it's bullish, we'll try to buy for as long as possible. If it is bearish, we will buy as little as possible.
Great, great. So, we are nearing our end, but this is a question that I have kept for the end from the audience, and I'll tweak a bit this audience question in asking Mr. Tiwari. Mr. Tiwari, we have heard it all. We have heard from Anne, we have heard from the ecosystem for the last 2 years, and we believe that new avatars of procurement function has evolved and procurement leaders have evolved post disruption. I'm tending it to call post disruption because of the disruptions that you have seen. It'll obviously not post disruption. Disruptions will be continual, but I'm sure avatars, new avatars of procurement have come. So, what is your belief that post these disruptions and the way the industry leaders, the procurement leaders have reacted to them and have come out with great stories? Has procurement now become more integral to an organizational business perspective? Has procurement as a function have moved closer to the boardroom? I think that's a perspective which we need to bring out for the aspiring procurement leaders of tomorrow. So has procurement moved closer to the boardroom now? Is the time ripe for it?
Yes, sure. So thanks for asking this great question with the right timing. So let me just recap my personal journey of this pandemic. So it started in 2022 mid, and we being into the medical devices, we first immediately come into the pressure as a functional head only to run the production lines because availability of the material with the lockdown, this, that. So if you ask me this question in 2020, I would say I have no clue that procurement functional leaders' roles are changing and we are going near to the boardrooms or inside the boardroom. No way. We were just busy how to run lines and how to get materials because nobody has experienced such a mass lockdowns and all the states and all the complexity. Of course, being into the essential services, so it gives. So things for picture was not really clear in 2020. But as we approach towards 2021, I personally start getting that there is something, let's say, in my personal career also in 25 years, I never experienced such a kind of inflation. And I'm sure same with Somnath and Abhijit. So once the inflation going out of the control, all lenses are on this, which we call it as a material cost or we call it purchase price variance. So because the companies which are into commodity or non-commoditized, everybody is out of the balance and they were not, it took time a lot of them to understand it. So definitely that was an opportunity for procurement leader to, if not inside the boardroom, they can very safely proceed toward the boardroom. People will be calling you if there are, because the companies, various companies have various procurement function. Some of them are very well have a seat on the table in the boardroom, some of may not have. But for sure, in last 1 year, procurement companies have understood where are my procurement guys are. So, and what are their capabilities. So there's a huge focus coming into the picture. now as we progressing in 2022, I think so before this webcast, I think started we were chatting with Somnath, and I think Somnath with his lot of experience shared that yes, the party is not yet started, so it's going to be long journey. So I must say that timing is perfect, but the people and the leader procurement also need to be fully prepared in many aspects, because from the business, from the financial side, it will be not viewed in 1 year, so it will be looked in multi-year. How procurement is viewing that cost, how procurement is prepared to really arrest this over the period, are we prepared or not, and those hard questions will come up to when the procurement person is sitting in the boardroom. It is happening with me. So let's say people are saying, I'll give you a very simple example. B Brown runs 3 plants in India. So one is the syringe plant, and it is 1/3 of my total revenue. Now, 1/3 of the total revenue plant in 2021 and experience PPV of 70%. So the business head and the CFO was asking, what is this challenge? If the plant, the revenue size is 1/3. Of course, it is a commodity business. We make syringes, we buy a lot of plastic material. But what is this story? It is hit by massive, let's say 70% of my purchase price and various in 2021 came from this plant. When I moved into 2022, the story changed because my standard cost changed, and now my pharma plant is showing almost 60% of the price variance, and this plant, which was commodity, is showing a lesser one. So really, I think when you are taking a seat in that boardroom, you also need to be fully prepared to really share not what is happening today, but what and how the function was prepared to add value as a business partner and navigate business through this tough journey of next 2 years. And I think all the indication shows inflation not going to go down. It may go down in your country, but you are also going to hit with the inflation for other country. So I think it's an excellent opportunity for relearn, for the procurement leaders prepare. If they prepare, seat is waiting for them.
Yes, I think it aligns to a very powerful saying from Spider-Man that with power comes accountability and responsibility. So I think as you move closer to the boardroom, you are more visible, more accountable, more responsible, and I'm sure people are geared up. And Mr. Chatterjee, with Ms. Tirupati's blessings, I think that's going to come soon. Uh, okay, we are almost, at the closure of this webinar, and hate to say that good things come to an end, and this also needs to come to an end.
So, Atanu, if I may just one quick
Yes,
word in
yes,
to add
please.
to what Mr. Tiwari said. Mr. Tiwari, we are not at procurement professionals. We are not going towards the boardroom. We are inside, and now we are rearing to sit at the head of the board table, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
To all of my young friends who are there are about 96 left today. I can tell you guys that there have been so many instances where people have now from procurement function become the CEOs. So just get it out of your heads that only the marketing MBAs or the IITs can lead companies. Hey, we can lead companies as well. So good luck and God bless.
God bless, God bless. May you all can give raisins to God Tirupati. Okay. The learnings have been so much in the last 70 minutes that if I have to sum up everything, the next disruption will definitely come and hit us soon, and we don't want to be left unprepared. So the 3 words that I have taken from this today, what procurement leaders and everyone who are not into procurement needs to take, the 3 augmentations or 3 important levers that always will be evergreen for us to create a veil against any disruption is digital, collaboration, and the third is market knowledge. I think these are the 3 things that have come from our 3 speakers, which are very strong, evergreen, and will always form a pillar of a procurement person who is already into the boardroom. Again, I repeat, it will be collaboration, digital transformation, and what is the effective market knowledge that you possess. I think with that, we come to the end and we have to put down our curtains. Before that, I must thank all the participants who were in the audience panel who have joined us today, supporting this webinar, supporting our speakers. I am sure it was a wonderful experience for you all, hearing all three of the eminent speakers today, Mr. Tiwari from Bibron, Mr. Chatterjee from ITC, and Mr. Tripathi from Vedanta. And people who could not join this time, thanks to them. And I just sincerely urge that, and I'm sure that they will be with us next time. I extend my sincere thanks to all my Injunction colleagues, okay, who have been supporting this webinar, and obviously, a lot of gratitude and thanks to the three eminent speakers that we had today. So thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, the wonderful stories. This will remain for the rest with us for the rest of your life, for sure. Stories will be remembered forever. Thank you so much. Take care until we meet again. Thank you so much on behalf of Injunction. Thank you.